Most people spend their lives trying to control the world around them, their job, their relationships, their circumstances. But the truth is, real power lies not in controlling the external, but in mastering the internal. The person who learns to train the mind to be stronger than the emotions becomes unstoppable, calm in chaos, focused in distraction, and resilient in failure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your friend on the air, reminding you of a truth as old as time and as relevant as this very moment. The man or woman who learns to master their mind need never fear the world. You see, every one of us is born with the same marvelous machinery, a thinking mind and a feeling heart. Both are gifts, but they serve different purposes. The mind was made to guide, the emotions to color the journey. Yet somewhere along the way, many of us reverse their roles. We let feelings, fleeting, momentary, and often irrational, make decisions meant for reason, patience, and clarity. When emotion rules, reason is silenced, and in those moments, we sabotage our best intentions. How many times have we spoken words we later wished we could take back? How many times have we quit something worthwhile because we felt tired, discouraged, or afraid? That's the power emotions can have, unless we train the mind to stand firm. Training the mind is not unlike training the body. It requires repetition, discipline, and awareness every day. We are given small tests, someone cuts us off in traffic, a co-worker criticizes us, plans don't go as expected. These moments are opportunities in disguise. They are invitations to pause, to breathe, and to choose reason over reaction. Each time you respond calmly, you strengthen the mind's grip over emotion. One of the finest practices I know is reflection. At the end of the day, take a few quiet minutes and ask yourself, where did I let my emotions steer me today? And where did I steer them? Awareness is the first step toward mastery. Once you begin observing your emotions instead of obeying them, you start to see their transient nature. You'll realize that no feeling, no anger, no fear, no sadness lasts forever. They come, they go, and what remains is the calm observer within you. The truly successful individual is not the one who avoids emotion, but the one who channels it. Courage is fear disciplined. Compassion is anger transformed. Determination is frustration redirected. When you train your mind to rule your emotions, you don't lose feeling, you elevate it. You gain the power to use emotion as energy, not as chains. Remember this simple truth. The moment you control your mind, you control your world. So tonight, as you listen to my voice, I challenge you, starting tomorrow morning, make a quiet decision. For just one day, no matter what happens, do not let emotions dictate your actions. Let your mind, calm, steady, and wise, lead the way. You'll find that problems shrink, clarity expands, and life itself begins to respond differently to you. Because life, my friends, is not what happens to us. Life is how we respond, and that response is yours to master. The mind is a loyal servant but a dangerous master. Train it well, and it will lead you to peace, power, and purpose. Your emotions are signals, not commands. Listen, but don't obey blindly. Every feeling that rises within you carries a message, a whisper from your inner world pointing to something deeper. Emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers trying to draw attention to what needs awareness. Anger may signal that a boundary has been crossed. Fear may warn you of potential danger. Sadness might reveal something you have yet to release. But while emotions are useful guides, they were never meant to be your rulers. The trouble begins when people mistake emotional impulses for instructions, acting without thought, speaking without pause, or making decisions they later regret. A mature mind knows the difference between feeling something and following it. Just because anger flares up does not mean you must fight. Just because fear whispers does not mean you must flee. The human experience becomes chaotic when emotions dictate action instead of informing it. To live wisely, one must develop the ability to step back and observe emotion as it arises, like watching clouds drift across the sky. They may appear dark and heavy at times, but they always move on. No emotion, no matter how intense, is permanent. Yet when we obey emotions blindly, we build storms out of passing weather. Training yourself to treat emotions as signals requires awareness and discipline. It begins with the practice of pause, that sacred space between stimulus and response. When something stirs strong emotion, resist the instinct to react immediately. Breathe. Ask yourself what this feeling is trying to tell you. Often, beneath anger lies hurt, beneath fear lies insecurity, and beneath sadness lies love. Once you understand the message, you can respond intelligently instead of impulsively. Emotional intelligence is not about suppressing your feelings, it's about translating them into wisdom. Every great leader, artist, and thinker in history possessed this ability. They felt deeply but were not enslaved by those feelings. They could use emotion as fuel without letting it drive recklessly. When the mind leads and the emotions follow, clarity replaces confusion. But when emotions take the wheel, logic fades and regret follows. That is why self-control is not the denial of emotion but the mastery of it. It's the power to feel anger yet remain kind, to feel fear yet move forward, to feel sorrow yet still act with hope. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen this balance is through reflection. When the day ends, revisit the moments when emotions influenced your choices. Did you react or respond? Did the emotion serve you, or did it steer you away from reason? Awareness turns each emotional surge into a lesson. Over time, you begin to see emotions not as obstacles but as instruments. They add depth to your humanity without distorting your judgment. The goal is not to silence emotion, but to teach it harmony with thought, to let feeling inform decision while reason ensures direction. Discipline is the bridge between emotional reaction and rational action. It is the quiet strength that stands between impulse and intention, the invisible force that separates those who live by feeling from those who live by principle. Emotions come quickly, often without warning, and they demand to be expressed. They rise like waves, powerful, unpredictable, and temporary. Discipline is the anchor that keeps you from being swept away. It gives you the ability to pause, to think, and to choose a response that aligns with your goals rather than your momentary mood. Without discipline, people live as prisoners of their emotions, reacting to every disappointment, every frustration, every fear, as though each one were permanent and uncontrollable. When emotion strikes, the first instinct is often to react, to speak sharply, to retreat in fear, to act in haste. Discipline teaches you to wait, to let the initial surge settle before making a decision. That pause is not weakness, it is mastery. It's in that small space between emotion and action where strength is built. Every time you resist the urge to lash out, to quit prematurely, or to chase instant gratification, you strengthen the bridge that carries you toward wisdom. Emotional reaction is instinctual, rational action is intentional. Discipline is the force that transforms one into the other. Developing discipline requires consistency. It is not born overnight, but through repeated choices. Choosing patience when anger arises, persistence when discouragement sets in, calm when chaos surrounds you. Each time you act with discipline, you train your mind to respond with clarity rather than confusion. It's like building a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Soon you'll find that situations that once stirred panic or frustration no longer control you. You become composed under pressure, thoughtful in challenge, and resilient in adversity. Discipline also demands a clear sense of purpose. When you know what truly matters, you gain the strength to ignore distractions and resist destructive impulses. A disciplined person doesn't act from emotion alone because they have something deeper guiding them. A vision, a principle, a standard. They understand that reacting emotionally might offer temporary satisfaction but rarely produces lasting success. Rational action, on the other hand, aligns with long-term values and leads to growth. The difference between failure and achievement often lies in that moment of restraint, in the choice to think before acting. Emotional reaction is about survival, rational action is about creation. Discipline transforms survival into mastery. It allows you to use emotion as energy, not as control. You begin to realize that discipline is not about suppression but direction, directing your emotions toward productive ends. Anger becomes determination, fear becomes alertness, and excitement becomes focus. The disciplined mind can take even the most turbulent emotion and turn it into forward motion, bridging the gap between chaos and clarity, between impulse and intelligence, between feeling and fulfillment. Thoughts are the architects of destiny. Emotions are just the weather that passes through. Every great achievement, every downfall, every transformation begins first as a thought. What we consistently think shapes the reality we eventually live. Thoughts are blueprints, unseen yet powerful, quietly constructing the foundation of our lives brick by brick. Emotions, on the other hand, come and go like passing storms. They can cloud the sky of your mind for a moment, but they cannot change the architecture unless you allow them to. A person who lives by thought builds stability. A person who lives by emotion builds on shifting sand. Each day, the mind is filled with countless thoughts. Most drift away, but the ones we nurture, the ones we revisit and believe, become patterns. These patterns create attitudes, and attitudes shape behavior. Over time, behavior creates destiny. If your thoughts are disciplined, positive, and directed toward purpose, your life begins to reflect that structure. If your thoughts are chaotic, fearful, and reactive, your destiny mirrors that confusion. The difference between success and struggle often lies not in circumstance but in thought management. Emotions, though intense, are fleeting. They can inspire action but should never define direction. A storm may rage, but a strong structure remains standing. In the same way, When your foundation is built on clear, steady thinking, no temporary emotion can shake it. People often mistake their feelings for reality. Feeling afraid, they assume danger. Feeling sad, they assume loss is permanent. Feeling angry, they assume injustice demands reaction. Yet, when the storm of emotion passes, they often realize the situation was not as it seemed. A wise person learns to wait for clarity, to let the emotional weather pass before building or breaking anything important. Training the mind to think constructively amidst emotional turbulence is an art. It begins with awareness. Catching yourself when emotions surge and asking, is this feeling permanent, or is it just passing through? Most of the time, it's the latter. Once you recognize emotion as temporary, you stop building permanent structures around it. You no longer make decisions in anger, promises in excitement, or conclusions in fear. You let the weather pass before you lay another brick of thought. That patience separates the reactive from the rational, the lost from the focused, the unstable from the grounded. A disciplined mind uses emotion as feedback, not as command. It feels deeply but thinks deliberately. It understands that emotions add color to life, but thoughts give it direction. When thoughts lead and emotions follow, harmony is created. When emotions lead and thoughts obey, chaos begins. The secret to destiny lies in this understanding that thought is the architect, emotion merely the atmosphere. And while the weather may change, the structure endures as long as the builder remains steadfast in design, focused on vision, and unmoved by the temporary winds of feeling. A calm mind sees opportunity where an emotional mind sees threat. In every challenge, there are two ways to perceive reality: through the lens of panic or through the lens of poise. The emotional mind reacts instantly, clouded by fear, anger, or uncertainty, while the calm mind observes carefully, searching for meaning, advantage, or growth. This difference in perception determines not just how a person feels, but how they live. The emotional mind sees risk and retreats. The calm mind sees potential and moves forward with intention. What defines success in life is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to remain composed when difficulty arises. When emotions take control, the mind becomes narrow. Fear shuts down creativity, anger blocks understanding, and anxiety distorts perspective. In that state, the brain becomes reactive rather than reflective, focusing only on survival instead of progress. The calm mind, however, functions from clarity. It recognizes emotion but doesn't surrender to it. It takes a step back, breathes, and assesses the situation objectively. Calmness is not indifference, it is control. It is the art of feeling emotion without becoming it, of noticing the storm without losing direction. This composure allows a person to see possibilities that panic conceals. In moments of pressure, the calm individual looks for lessons, solutions, and openings. They understand that within every problem lies a seed of opportunity, an innovation waiting to be discovered, a strength waiting to be tested, or a lesson waiting to be learned. The emotional mind interprets challenge as threat, but the calm mind interprets it as invitation, an invitation to adapt, to grow, to lead. This perspective shift changes everything. History's greatest leaders, thinkers, and creators were not those who avoided chaos, but those who stayed calm within it. They could think when others froze, act when others hesitated, and see possibility when others saw peril. Calmness is developed through practice and self-awareness. It begins with mastering the pause, the ability to stop before reacting, to breathe before deciding, to listen before judging. When you practice calmness, you train your nervous system to stay grounded even when emotions rise. This inner steadiness becomes a form of power that no external chaos can shake. Over time, the calm mind becomes like still water, reflective, perceptive, and deep. It notices details others miss and opportunities others overlook because its vision is not blurred by emotional turbulence. An emotional mind is like a storm-tossed sea, constantly reacting to every wave of circumstance. A calm mind is like a lighthouse, steady, guiding, and unshaken no matter how fierce the winds become. The calm mind sees the truth beyond the noise, the path within the confusion, and the possibility hidden inside the problem. It understands that fear exaggerates danger and that patience reveals solutions. When you cultivate calmness, you begin to move through life not as a victim of your emotions but as a master of your perception. Self-mastery begins the moment you choose response over reaction. It is in that brief space between stimulus and decision where true strength is born. Reaction is instinctive, driven by emotion, often thoughtless and immediate. Response, however, is deliberate, a conscious choice rooted in awareness and control. The difference may appear small in time, but it is vast in impact. Those who master themselves are not the ones who never feel anger, fear, or frustration. They are the ones who feel it, pause, and then choose how to act. That single act of choice separates chaos from clarity, weakness from wisdom, and impulse from intention. Every situation that stirs emotion offers an invitation to practice this art. Someone insults you, and instinct urges you to retaliate. Plans fall apart, and frustration tempts you to give up. Pressure mounts, and fear pushes you toward rash decisions. These moments reveal who governs your life, the emotion or the mind. Reaction gives power to the external, response takes it back. When you react, you become a product of circumstance. When you respond, you become the author of circumstance. Self-mastery is built on this foundation. The refusal to let fleeting emotions dictate lasting outcomes. The path toward response begins with awareness. You cannot control what you do not notice. When emotion arises, the first step is to recognize it without judgment. Feel it, name it, observe it. In doing so, you create distance between the emotion and the self. That distance gives you choice, the power to decide whether to follow the feeling or to redirect it. Reaction collapses this space, response expands it. With time and practice, this awareness grows sharper, and your control over yourself deepens. You begin to notice that emotions no longer pull you as strongly as they once did because you've built the discipline to pause and think. Choosing response over reaction does not mean suppressing emotion. It means channeling it. Anger can become assertiveness, fear can become caution, sadness can become empathy. The energy of emotion remains, but its direction changes. This is the essence of mastery, transformation, not denial. Those who react waste energy in defense and regret. Those who respond use that same energy to create and progress. Every moment of control strengthens your inner foundation, and with each instance, your mind learns that it can command the storm instead of being consumed by it. Life continuously tests this ability. Challenges will come, people will provoke, and circumstances will shift without warning. But within each test lies an opportunity to rise above impulse and to choose composure. When you begin to live from response rather than reaction, you start leading your life with purpose rather than being led by emotion. You cultivate an inner steadiness that no external turbulence can shake, and through it, you discover the quiet power that defines true self-mastery. Temporary feelings should never make permanent decisions. Emotions by their very nature are fleeting. They rise like tides, high and forceful one moment, then fade quietly the next. Yet in those peaks of emotion, the mind often feels compelled to act, to quit, to lash out, to withdraw, or to choose something that cannot easily be undone. When people act on emotion rather than reason, they mistake a passing storm for the climate of their life. A decision made in anger may destroy what years of patience built. A choice made in fear may block what courage could have achieved. The tragedy is that feelings change, but consequences endure. To live wisely is to recognize that emotions are temporary guests. They visit to teach, to warn, or to express, but they are not meant to take residence in your decision-making. When you feel overwhelmed, it's easy to believe that the feeling will last forever, that sadness will always linger, that anxiety will never fade, that frustration will keep burning. Yet, if you look back through your own experiences, you'll notice that every emotion you once thought permanent eventually passed. What felt unbearable one day became manageable the next. The mind, when calm, sees this truth clearly. The emotional mind, however, forgets it in the heat of the moment. That is why stillness is so powerful. It gives perspective the chance to return before action is taken. Discipline is what protects you from the tyranny of temporary emotion. It teaches you to pause before reacting, to reflect before deciding. This pause is not avoidance but strength. It gives your reason time to surface and your emotions time to settle. A decision made after calm reflection carries far more wisdom than one made in the midst of emotional turbulence. The most successful and grounded individuals are not those who never feel, but those who have trained themselves to wait until the storm passes before setting a course. They know that emotional clarity is a poor substitute for rational clarity. The mind in turmoil sees distortion. Fear magnifies risks that may not exist. Anger narrows focus to harm instead of heal. Sadness blinds the eyes to future joy. When decisions are made in these moments, they are rarely aligned with truth. Waiting allows emotion to transform into understanding. Once the waves settle, the water becomes clear again, and you can see what lies beneath, the deeper reason, the real lesson, the right direction. Acting too soon, however, is like trying to navigate while the water is still stirred. You move, but you cannot see where you're going. Temporary feelings lose power when met with patience. Every emotion is a visitor, and wisdom lies in letting it come and go without giving it the authority to steer your life. Decisions should be made not in the heat of the moment, but in the light of understanding. When emotion has softened and the truth can finally be seen, emotional strength grows through reflection, not repression. Many people mistake emotional control for emotional suppression. They believe that being strong means hiding pain, denying sadness, or pretending indifference in the face of disappointment. But true strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the understanding of it. To repress what you feel is to bury something alive, and what is buried without healing eventually resurfaces, often stronger and more destructive. Reflection, on the other hand, turns emotion into insight. It allows you to meet your feelings with curiosity instead of fear, to ask why they exist, and to learn from what they reveal. Emotional growth begins the moment you stop running from your emotions and start listening to them. Repression may seem like control, but it is actually avoidance. It creates a surface calm that hides inner chaos. People who repress emotion often find themselves overreacting to small triggers because what was never processed builds pressure within. Reflection releases that pressure. It invites you to pause, to breathe, and to examine your internal world without judgment. Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" you ask, "What is this feeling trying to teach me?" That simple shift transforms pain into purpose. Every emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, carries information about your needs, values, and limits. Anger may highlight injustice or crossed boundaries. Sadness may point to loss or unmet attachment. Fear may reveal a lack of preparation or understanding. When you reflect, these emotions become teachers instead of tormentors. Developing emotional strength through reflection requires honesty and patience. It means allowing yourself to feel without being consumed, to observe without reacting. Writing in a journal, meditating, or simply spending time alone in silence can all help turn emotion into awareness. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, but to process it, to let it move through you instead of getting stuck within you. The mind that reflects learns, but the mind that represses repeats. When you refuse to acknowledge pain, it quietly dictates your behavior, shaping your choices and reactions in ways you may not even recognize. Reflection breaks this cycle by bringing what is hidden into the light of understanding. Strength built on repression is fragile because it depends on avoidance. Strength built on reflection is resilient because it's rooted in truth. A person who reflects can face emotion directly and still remain centered. They do not fear feeling. They trust their ability to navigate it. That confidence creates emotional stability, the calm assurance that whatever arises, they can handle it. Reflection transforms emotion from a source of weakness into a source of wisdom, allowing you to act with clarity rather than confusion. Over time, this habit becomes a quiet power, one that grows deeper with each challenge faced and each feeling understood. The strongest people are not those without emotion, but those who can steer it. Many mistake strength for detachment, believing that to be powerful is to be unaffected. But true power does not come from the absence of feeling, it comes from mastery over it. Emotion is energy, raw, potent, and deeply human. When guided with wisdom, it can build empires, heal wounds, and inspire greatness. When left uncontrolled, that same energy can destroy peace, relationships, and potential. The strongest individuals are those who have learned to harness this internal force, to channel their emotions toward purpose instead of letting them run wild in reaction. Every emotion has a direction it wants to take you. Anger urges action, fear seeks protection, joy invites expansion, and sadness calls for reflection. Strength lies not in ignoring these impulses, but in understanding them. The emotionally strong person does not suppress anger, they transform it into motivation. They do not let fear paralyze them, they turn it into awareness and preparation. They do not allow sadness to consume them, they use it to develop empathy and depth. To steer emotion is to use its momentum without surrendering control of the wheel. It is to ride the wave without being drowned by it. Those who cannot steer emotion often find themselves driven by it. They say things they regret, make choices they can't undo, and react to life instead of shaping it. Emotional strength is not about being stoic or unmoved, it's about being aware. Awareness creates distance between feeling and action, allowing thought to guide passion. This inner leadership transforms emotion into a tool instead of a trap. The strongest people are not immune to anger, fear, or pain. They simply refuse to let those feelings dictate their character. They experience emotion fully but act from principle, not impulse. Building this kind of strength requires patience and consistent self-reflection. It begins with noticing emotion as it arises, acknowledging it without judgment, understanding its message, and then choosing the most constructive way to express it. Over time, this practice becomes instinctive. The storms of life still come, but the person who has mastered emotional steering no longer fears them. They can navigate chaos with clarity because they are not at war with themselves. Instead of wasting energy on suppression or overreaction, they use emotion as a compass that points toward what matters most. The strongest people turn emotion into power. They can take the sting of rejection and turn it into resilience, the ache of loss and turn it into gratitude, the spark of passion and turn it into progress. They know that emotion is neither good nor bad. It is neutral until directed. Their strength lies in direction, in guiding the inner currents of feeling toward purpose and peace. Through this mastery, they rise above circumstance and remain steady no matter how turbulent the waters of life become. Every setback is a classroom for emotional control. Life has a way of teaching through difficulty what comfort can never reveal. When everything goes according to plan, patience, resilience, and control are easy to claim. But when things fall apart, when plans fail, people disappoint, or outcomes don't match effort, that is when the true test of emotional strength begins. Setbacks strip away illusion and expose the raw patterns of our reactions. They reveal whether we lead our emotions or are led by them. In this way, every challenge becomes an invitation to practice mastery, not mastery over others, but mastery over oneself. When a setback strikes, the emotional mind is the first to react. Frustration, disappointment, or anger rise quickly, demanding immediate response. The instinct is to blame, withdraw, or give up. But it is in this very moment that growth becomes possible. Emotional control does not mean the absence of feeling. It means pausing long enough to let the initial wave of emotion pass before choosing how to proceed. Every setback offers that pause as a lesson. A moment to reflect instead of react, to think instead of lash out. The more one practices this awareness, the stronger emotional stability becomes. Setbacks are mirrors reflecting how we handle loss, failure, and change. They show whether our confidence depends on external success or internal steadiness. People who learn from setbacks understand that frustration is not a dead end but a signal, a prompt to adapt, rethink, and refine. The emotional mind sees failure as final, but the disciplined mind sees it as feedback. In the classroom of adversity, the lesson is always the same: control yourself first, then control what you can around you. Each time you face difficulty with composure, you build another layer of resilience that cannot be shaken by future storms. Emotional control also comes from perspective. When the mind is calm, it sees patterns where chaos once seemed dominant. You begin to understand that setbacks are not personal attacks but part of the process of growth. Every challenge has a hidden message, and emotion clouds that message until you choose to listen with patience. Reflection turns pain into instruction. Over time, setbacks lose their sting because they are no longer threats, they are teachers. The mind trained in this way becomes unshakable, learning to remain centered even when the outer world shifts unexpectedly. Those who avoid discomfort never develop emotional depth, but those who face it with awareness grow in wisdom and power. Each setback tests composure, and each recovery strengthens it. The individual who learns to manage emotion and failure will handle success with grace. That is why setbacks are not punishments but preparation, silent mentors shaping the discipline and balance that define maturity. The lesson repeats until it is learned, and once it is, life itself begins to flow differently, no longer ruled by emotion but guided by calm understanding. The mind trained in patience and clarity becomes an unshakable force. Strength of mind is not measured by aggression or haste, but by the ability to remain still when everything around you is in motion. A patient mind does not rush decisions, and a clear mind does not cling to confusion. Together they form a balance that cannot be easily disturbed. In a world that glorifies speed, patience becomes a rare power. It gives you the advantage of perspective, the ability to see beyond the immediate emotion, the temporary difficulty, or the fleeting disappointment. Clarity, on the other hand, allows you to discern truth from noise, opportunity from distraction, and progress from mere movement. When these two qualities unite, they create a person who is centered, composed, and immune to chaos. Patience is not passivity, it is strength under control. It means having the discipline to wait without anxiety, to trust the process without forcing outcomes. It teaches that timing matters as much as effort. Many lose their peace not because they lack potential, but because they lack patience, the ability to hold their focus steady when results take longer than expected. Patience allows growth to unfold naturally without being distorted by panic or frustration. The mind that learns to wait becomes wise, for it begins to understand that everything meaningful takes time: healing, mastery, success, and transformation. Impatience clouds judgment, but patience sharpens it, keeping emotion in check and vision intact. Clarity complements patience by cutting through mental clutter. A clear mind is one that has learned to quiet unnecessary thoughts and stay focused on what truly matters. It does not waste energy on regret, comparison, or fear of the unknown. Clarity is the ability to see reality as it is, not as emotion distorts it. When the mind is clear, decisions become simpler, purpose becomes sharper, and peace becomes constant. Clarity doesn't come from force, but from awareness, from observing thoughts without being attached to them, from questioning assumptions until truth stands revealed. When patience and clarity coexist, they form the foundation of inner power. You no longer react to life, you respond to it with intention. Setbacks lose their ability to shake you because your perspective extends beyond the moment. You recognize that no storm lasts forever, and no confusion is permanent when met with a calm, steady mind. This unshakable quality is not arrogance but assurance, the quiet confidence that you can face uncertainty without losing direction. A mind trained in patience and clarity becomes its own fortress. It cannot be manipulated by fear or swayed by impulse. It moves with purpose, not pressure. It understands that progress is often silent, that truth reveals itself to those who wait and observe. Such a mind sees opportunity where others see chaos and peace where others see conflict. It becomes the calm center of its own universe, a force that endures no matter how the world changes around it. In true strength is not found in suppressing emotion but in mastering it. The mind, when trained with patience, reflection, and discipline, becomes the greatest instrument for shaping destiny. Emotions will always rise and fall like waves, but the one who learns to stand still amid their movement discovers unshakable power. Life's challenges, setbacks, and uncertainties are not meant to break us, but to build the foundation of self-control and wisdom. Each test of anger, fear, or frustration is an opportunity to refine the mind and strengthen the spirit. When you learn to pause before reacting, to reflect instead of repress, and to guide emotion instead of being guided by it, you move from survival to mastery. The calm, disciplined mind sees what others miss, possibilities hidden in chaos, lessons buried in failure, and peace within turmoil. And in that awareness, life begins to unfold differently, not because the world has changed, but because you have. The greatest victory you will ever achieve is not over others, but over yourself. For once you master the mind, no emotion, no circumstance, and no challenge can take that freedom away.